Marhaba, my name is Izza Abul Hayja, and I'm a PhD candidate working on Palestinian female poetry and the question of multilingualism. My PhD is conducted under the co-supervision between Freie Universität in Berlin, Germany, and Sorbonne University in Paris. And I will be presenting today the first part of our paper titled The Nakba Lexicon, Building a Comprehensive Dataset from Palestinian Literature, on behalf of my co-authors, Professors Mol Haj, Jonas Siboni, and Paul Rayson. My colleague, Salim El-Manadri, will present the second part shortly. To begin, our paper focuses on building a comprehensive dataset from Palestinian literature, specifically the Diwan, Sorry for Disturbance, Asifa ala al-Iz'aj, published in 2017. The primary goal is to preserve and analyze the cultural, linguistic, and emotional dimensions of Palestinian post-Nakba literature. To achieve this, we created a dedicated corpus and applied natural language processing techniques, which allow for structured analysis and deeper insights into this significant literary work. Okay, the Nakba occurred in 1948, or the catastrophe, led to the mass displacement of Palestinians, creating literature shaped by fragmentation. This literature preserves collective memory, resilience, and cultural identity. It also serves as both resistance and documentation, protecting Palestinian heritage from erasure and giving voice to experiences of exile and displacement. Okay, here is the author or the poet, استقلال عيد, or how she calls herself استقلال بلادنا, the independence of our country, or بنت البروي, the daughter of البروي, hails from البروي, a village displaced during the Nakba. Her poetry explores key themes such as identity, the situation of women, and the rewriting of pre-Nakba history. She connects the fragmented pieces of Palestinian history and culture using both modern Standard Arabic and the Palestinian dialect of Galilee. Her work is significant for offering a female perspective that documents the experience of displacement, shedding light on the stories of those who have been silenced. Okay. The Nakba Lexicon aims to build a structured dataset from Palestinian literature to document themes such as identity, displacement, and resilience. By applying advanced NLP models like Arabert and Marabert, it enables deep language and lexical analysis of these texts. A key focus of this project is to highlight the often overlooked contributions of female voices in preserving cultural narratives, giving them the recognition they deserve in the context of Palestinian literature. The methodology focuses on terms from Istiqlal Eid's poetry, reflecting the post-Nakba experience. These terms are categorized into 10 thematic domains, such as political and cultural lexicons. NLP tools like Arabert and Marabert are used for lexical and language classification. Okay, here's the data classification, which is the most interesting part for me. As a student of language and literature, I manually annotated Istiqlal Eid's Diwan, identifying key terms related to post-Nakba experience. So I categorized words under labels such as we have here example of a poem, صباح الخير يا بروتي, good morning my بروة. So there is, for instance, the natural word when she says صباح الخير على عكوب والفيجن, good morning, and she is mentioning some names of plants that are under erasure in some places in Palestine. And there are some classifications like memory and preservation. There is لالي كاتم الصوت, ناجل علي, for instance. And we have some place names like villages that are erased, Deir Yassin, Marj ibn Amir, Kufr Qasim. The dataset consists of 222 sentences, each annotated with a word or phrase reflecting its language type and lexical class. Now, I thank you for listening to me. I will pass the floor to my colleague, Salim, who will continue with the next part of the presentation.
Thank you, Izza, and hi everyone. Thanks, Qadir and Mustafa and everybody that make this workshop happen. So I'm talking about the experiments done for this data set. And the goal actually for doing these experiments is to assess how effectively computational models can identify and categorize the nuanced linguistic elements presented in the Nakba narrative, and especially in Istiqlal Eid works. So the experiments we've done provide a foundation of exploring how languages used in Palestinian literature to articulate themes of displacement, memory, and resilience, while also learning computational analysis of these themes within NLP applications. So these experiments employ two kinds of classifications that are available in the dataset. Language classification, as you see in the table, where the words or phrases categorized based on the language source, like coming from MSA dialect, or maybe it has some influences from other languages like Hebrew, English, and French. And the second part of classification is lexical classification, where those words and phrases also categorized based on the 10 themes that mentioned earlier by Izza. And the themes also has unbalanced classes between them. So if you see here the language classification, so the majority of the classes or the sentences coming from the standard, and 15% only coming from the dialect, while maybe 5% only represent the other classes in the data set. The primary technique employed for this task was TF-IDF embedding approach, which represent text as numerical vectors based on their significance within the dataset, and those vectors actually were used as input to train for traditional machine learning models. Those are SVM, logistic regression, random forest, and naive Bayes. And as you see, this data set actually is quite small, so it includes about 222 sentences only. So to address the limitation of the size of data set, we incorporated bigram features to enhance representations by capturing contextual relationships between the words. So also, in addition to the traditional approach, we tried to use pre-trained language models, RBERT and MARBERT, and so to classify the language and see how it works in Nakba narratives. And we choose actually these two language models because RBERT is working more tailored on Arabic and on the standard task, while MARBERT focused on Arabic dialects. So for both models were actually evaluated in two settings without any additional training and with fine tuning. In the fine-tuning, we use the technique of early stopping criteria to prevent overfitting. And also we did pre-processing for the data to remove such like diacritization, stopwords, and extra spaces. Moving to the results of lexical classification, the first kind of classification we have. So we can see that in the table, the traditional models like SVM and random forest yielded moderate results between 9 to 19% in F-score, indicating the limitation of capturing the complexity of dataset. In contrast, Arbert and Marbert demonstrated significant improvement. Fine-tuned Marbert achieved the highest score of 68, as you see, showcasing its ability to effectively capture and classify the nuanced lexical features in our dataset. For language classification, the second task we have, so the task evaluates the ability of models to identify the language type of each sentence within the dataset, reflecting its multilingual and dialectical diversity. So for the first kind of language models, the traditional machine learning models, they provided consistent and reasonable results, achieving a score of 76 to 77%. So these models, however, lacked in sophistication needed to fully capture the complexity of multi-class classification in Arabic dialects. Fine-tuned Arbert outperformed all other models, as you see, achieving a score of 87. So that demonstrates its capability to handle the linguistic variation and multi-class tasks effectively. Marbert also closely followed Arbert with percent of 84. So to discuss these results, actually, in terms of traditional machine learning models, while
Sorry
these
to
models
interrupt you,
are...
Salim, but we have to conclude in 1 minute if you can.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Okay, so for traditional machine learning models, while these models are capable to provide baseline insights, they struggle to fully grasp the complicated layers of meaning and cultural references. On the other hand, the superior performance of fine-tuned large language models, such as those two models, so they illustrate their capability to bridge computational methods with cultural and historical context. So this research actually illustrates the potential of integrating computational tools with literary and cultural studies. So to conclude, so we introduced the Nakba Lexicon, which include about 222 sentences from Palestinian literature. And also we showcased the role of language in documenting resilience and identity. We used pre-trained models, and those actually demonstrated the potential of them to preserve the culture heritage. For future direction, there are actually many potential ways to work on, like to expand the data set and include more authors, and also to extend the experiments to stop on the error analysis and try more language models. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Izza and Salim. I would like to give the audience the opportunity to ask questions. Yes, Owen, please.
Yes, I have a question for Salim. You said that you removed diacritics, and I was sort of surprised by that, because wouldn't that be a good source of data for the task of, for example, detecting dialect?
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Sometimes diacritics is as we see, some words maybe has diacritized and some others don't have. So that could have some complicated ways for machine learning to train on those words and and find patterns to mention their meanings in the context. So as in general, so usually diacritization and also like normalization sometimes could work better. However, maybe some other kind of pre-processing like stemming or lemmatization maybe couldn't work well as we are dealing with the dialect context, maybe because of the limitation of models that work well on the dialect side.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?